Ladies and gentlemen, and local artists around the country, specifically Santiago. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Local Love presented by Emo Brown. As always, Emo Brown is brought to you by the wonderful people at Liquid Death. Murder your thirst, mountain water, still drinking water. Oof, amazing times. With an amazing cast today. Tenemos bienvenido from the mountains of Lake Dixon, dog. It's not a mountain, right? Mountainside?
A little bit, like a hill, maybe.
Like a hill? A little bit of hill. We have Enrique Lugo III, alias El Chicle. Bienvenido otra vez, Don Chicle. There it is. He has brought together a nice little ensemble of people today. You, myself, and none other than Ron Recaido, el compita de... Where are you from, doggy?
Recaido.
I'm from San Diego.
Mr. Recaido, bro. San Diego.
San Diego.
Whereabouts?
Grew up in Paradise Hills.
Mm-hmm.
You know, went to Bell, went to Morris.
Nice.
Went to Morris. Yeah.
Dude, we got chased out of Morris when we were at Bonita.
Oh.
We were on the baseball team and they had to like escort us in and escort us out. And we lost. I mean, I don't know what they were afraid of. We weren't going to fucking raise much of a ruckus on the baseball team. Ron, thank you for making time out of your busy day to cruise in.
Thank you for having me.
I'd love to know a little bit more about you, man. Tell us a little bit what you're all about.
Oh, man, you know, I'm an artist. I'm in the Navy. Hopefully this doesn't air today because I told my work that I had to bring my son somewhere. No, I'm just joking.
Your son's in the back. We're good.
Yeah. Currently in the Navy. I got about two more years to go before I retire. And so in retrospect, I've been creating a body of work lately that involves the Navy, you know. And my father was in the Navy, which is how we ended up in Paradise Hills.
Okay.
So this body of work that I got coming up kind of explores what it's like to be in the Navy through my father's experience, you know? Yeah.
Experience the lineage, man.
Yeah, the lineage. Yeah, I'm a second generation. He came out here. To get right into it, there was a time in the 50s or 60s, I think it was the 60s, where the U.S. was, you know, all up in the Philippines, and they opened up floodgates for Filipinos to join the U.S. Navy and become naturalized citizens. You know, my pop was third world country broke, third world country poor, and always did good in school. So when the opportunity arose, he went over, took the assessment test, and passed. You know, it was like he won the golden ticket. And overnight, the amount of money he would make just as a junior sailor, he was, you know, pretty much
life changing. I'm assuming,
might as
bro.
well have been a millionaire. Might as well have been a millionaire. Yeah. So he went from growing up, you know, didn't have much, getting clowned. Like this guy got to borrow his brother's shoes just to go to school or wear slippers to school. It was just like, to overnight when he was in the Navy, it's all of a sudden, hey, people are inviting him over, you know, want to hang out, like, hey, you know, like, so he ended up joining the Navy, and he came over here. While he was over here, they lived, I think they first got a little, like, granny shack out on, they call it, right by National City, off of Epsilon.
Epsilon, yeah.
Yeah, right off of Epsilon. It was like the granny house in the back of some guy's house. And it was just a small little spot for him, my mom, and my older brother. And then later on, they moved to Meadowbrook. They moved to Meadowbrook. Like everybody, all these Filipinos who came over here in the Navy were just like lit. They went from joining, and then they lived on Meadowbrook when their families got here. And then, well, you know, Meadowbrook, it was like, all right, first chance they got, they were up out of there. Ended up buying a house off of Parkside, Garber. You know what I'm saying? The backyard was the 54. And so we grew up out there. And then
South Bay through and through then, huh?
Yeah, and then later on, when the area by Bell started developing, they sold the house over on Garber, and we moved over closer to Bell, which was like, I felt like back in the day, it was like the old East Lake. Like it was all brand new. And
all South Bay was ever evolving, man. I remember my family, we went from San Isidro to Paradise Hills, and then to Bonita in '86 when they were doing that whole development out there. Yeah. And then Eastlake came out, like in the early 2000s, late 90s, because I graduated from Bonita in '97. And I remember that's kind of when Bonita or Eastlake High School started kind of enrolling and doing their thing.
Yeah.
People don't understand just how big South Bay is. as it relates to how it was in the mid '80s, bro.
Yes.
It was like spots here and there and here and there, and then now where it's a force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah.
How'd you get involved with art? What was the pool? What was the intent with you in art?
So art, I think that's also like a product of my dad being in the military, and it was like Pop was gone. They didn't know what it was like to be out here in America. They didn't know to sign us up for like Little League.
Okay.
You know, and in the 70s, it was all about moms working too. So dad was working, moms was working, and we were just home. Like,
yes, sir.
We don't want you to do nothing but stay out of trouble and do your homework. You know what I mean? And so
latchkey kids.
And when I was just bored, and my dad used to always bring home all these like ballpoint pens and notepads from work. You know,
okay.
Say, hey, you know, free supplies. You know what I mean? And so I just used to take these notepads and just draw my ass. I used to draw Snoopy. Went from Snoopy to like Spider-Man. And then I was noticing like in class, you know, 2nd, 3rd grade, I was always like the guy, like, oh, you want to draw on a Spider-Man? I got you. You want to draw on the Optimus Prime? Easy.
Transformers,
you know
Trading for erasers. Shoo.
And so that was like my claim to fame. It was like, oh yeah, like,
you created your own world.
I created my own little world. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I was always getting props as a kid, so I stuck with it. Like I didn't do any sports. You know what I mean? Later, I got into basketball, so you know I got pretty good at basketball.
Allegedly.
A little bit. But yeah, so then when junior high came around, I went from like drawing comic books, you know, Bart Simpson and still Charlie Brown and Snoopy and all that, Marvel, all those characters, and then all of a sudden, like I got introduced to graffiti, you know, and then graffiti was like running along the same times as like, you know, more violent extracurricular activities. And it was like, oh man, like, I don't know if I want to do all that. I'm gonna stay in my lane right here. Cause, yeah, I didn't want to go down that path. So I stayed with the art and, you know, we just started, you know, vandalizing the neighborhood, which isn't real cool, you know. But
the views expressed by Ron do not necessarily represent what Emo Brown. This guy, dog.
Yeah. So
but I think at that time, that era, there was 2 routes you could. Well, there was more than 2, but in that kind of like genre, it was like either you were gangbanging or you were tagging. You know, and it was like those were the 2 outlets that you saw. You know, I was a nerd, so I just stayed in soccer and baseball like the whole time. I just kind of did that thing.
Damn.
But those were heavy extracurriculars. I remember down here, man.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, my parents didn't know us to really get us involved in any, you know, sports or anything. So like graffiti became a sport, really, because it was just all right, you know. Get out, get a little exercise at night, go walk a couple miles.
Cardiovascular?
Running.
A little cardiovascular?
Climbing, you know.
My dude created CrossFit in the early 90s, late 80s, bro. It was
parkour.
A little parkour, bro.
Parkour. We were doing parkour before.
He went from drawing Spider-Man to hanging out on the freaking freeway side.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Good on you, man.
Yeah, and so and it was running like parallel with the hip hop scene, because I was blowing up, you know, it was like the golden age of hip hop, and the music was, you know, out of control. And so, you know, hip hop and graffiti was like my lane. But, you know, it also had its downsides. And it was like, man, you know, is it worth the risk? And yeah, always stuck with it. But then throughout high school, everybody was just getting into all types of extracurricular activities. And then the 90s were out of control. So
when'd you graduate from Morris?
I graduated in 95.
Okay.
Yeah.
48 years young.
48, wow, calling me out. But yeah, 48.
I can do math. I can do math. I graduated in 97. So yeah.
I had a lane out though, because again, my dad being in the Navy, if you get, you know, injured or whatever, California has this thing. If you're like a veteran with a disability, they'll put your kid through college, like they'll pay the kid tuition. So I had a free ride. Yeah. So I was straddling the fence, always did good in school, made grades, sent some applications out. I was like, man, first chance I get, I'm gonna try to move up out of here and see what else is outside of this, you know, my little 5, 10, 15 mile radius of San Diego, you know what I mean? And so I put some applications out, got accepted to like UC Santa Cruz, went to go check out that campus.
Banana slugs, right?
Huh?
Hell yeah, banana slugs.
I kind of felt like from growing up out here to going to Santa Cruz, it was like too much nature. But I think I would have appreciated it now. But like, yeah, I went to San Jose. Like, we went to go check out the campus over there, and like right away, like some bum at a 7-Eleven was asking me for money. I was like, this place is kind of bummy. But San Jose ended up like that was a cool school too.
Yeah.
But I ended up going to Long Beach because it wasn't too far away from home.
All right.
And
Far enough.
Kind of.
And close.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was a little bit too close. But anyways, I went to school to study art. So I was just like, all right, you know what? I'm going to study art. And this was like when the internet and everything was like coming to be. And I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Like, you want to be a graphic designer because they're going to need people to design websites on Flash and stuff, you know, because all these websites are going to be done on Flash. And it was like, okay, well, maybe I should learn how to do some Flash and programming. But yeah, some of my traits that I had in high school, some of my, I guess, bad habits followed. So I was out there, I was basically out there partying. I was partying like there was no tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Well, that was the era of partying in Long Beach, bro.
Yeah, Long Beach was a good school for
That
that.
was a good school for that,
Long
bro.
Beach, go Beach.
Only things that came out of Long Beach in that era were baseball players and Snoop Dogg, bro. So you were in that era.
Sublime came out
Sublime?
of there.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of good music coming out of Long Beach at the time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I went to college, but then I had this still free tuition thing. So it wasn't like I really had a rush to get out of school. I was like, oh wait, so I just got to work a little part-time job to cover books and, you know, maybe pay for my little apartment. You know, parents are still helping me out as well. You know what I'm saying? And my tuition's paid for, so I was like,
Living the dream right there,
I was
bro.
like, I could
Van Wilder situation over here.
Yeah, I ended up staying in college so long that I had seen everybody that I start with graduate, and I was like Ice Cube in higher learning. I was like, damn, I'm like the oldest person here.
It's like, it's my 9th year. What the fuck?
Yeah,
I'm older than my teachers.
and I felt like I got a doctorates in partying at least, but I was there long enough to get my doctorates, but you know, I left with like a bachelor's, you know what I'm saying?
But you finished, bro.
That's
I
right.
finished.
But you finished.
I finished. Yeah, school. Not to sound like a nerd or anything, but school. You know, school had always came in easy. You know what I mean? So
Golden ratios.
yeah, you know, it's just schooling this dude over here about the golden ratio. I thought he would already know about it, but
What's the golden ratio?
the golden
Apparently, as in everything you've ever seen or thought of, the golden ratio exists.
A ver.
it's a naturally occurring pattern that happens in nature, and it's like a mathematical equation, like how a flower blooms is like a mathematical pattern, or how like the quasars spin. Like
Bring the joints out, dog. I feel like I need to be at a different level to fully
Hey,
understand
man,
this conversation.
I got a master's in this. Like we would have like hours long conversations
Talking
on
about
this
the
stuff.
Fibonacci sequence.
The Fibonacci sequence. There you go.
Did
Yeah.
you just black out? Bro? What happened?
Somebody call my wife.
Yeah, somebody call my
His
wife.
nose started bleeding.
There
The
you go.
fire started on.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
The Fibonacci sequence.
But yeah, you know, all
Barry turned into Baron real quick.
Yeah.
It's not all boobs on Instagram, okay?
Yeah.
There's an education.
Yeah, you know, there you go. He knows about, at least one person knows about
Yeah.
it.
Damn it.
But
I know about the golden arches, bro.
Yeah.
golden arches.
Absolutely.
Hey, you know. But you'll find it in, I don't know, you'll find it in like the Apple logo, or Leonardo da Vinci would incorporate it all up into his stuff. It's like, it's hidden, you know what I'm saying? But as like a general rule of thumb, if you want like a aesthetically pleasing design, throw that up into the mix, and you could apply it to sound too. I heard people apply that to music, and it actually sounds like, I don't know, has some type of, there it is.
The Fibonacci
I wasn't
sequence
lying. There you
is a
go.
series
Fact
of
check.
numbers where each number is the sum of the two preceding ones, starting with 0 and 1.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
And it makes like a swirly pattern.
Swirly pattern.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, all right. I
Yeah.
learned a little something.
But see, he
today.
hit me with like, oh, you do this, right? And he showed me he was laying something out for the show this weekend. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah. And then he explained it. I was like, oh, yeah, of course.
Duh.
And then he has one of these.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obvio microbio. Wait, you bring up something interesting. What's going on this weekend?
Yeah, man. So that's why Ron's sitting here telling us his story,
Yeah,
because
get
he,
sidetracked.
you know, you asked him about that image we saw where it says Kwento, and Ron's a storyteller.
I can tell, man. I'm enthralled. I'm involved now. I'm with it.
Yeah. And so he put together this show basically telling his family's story, their journey to the States and what it meant to them.
Immigrating.
And which is a topic right now, right?
There
And I
we
know
go.
a lot of things going on with immigration and brown people, but this show is really is super cool. I hope people can come out and experience it, because it's not art in the way that we think about art necessarily.
The Emo Brown Art Department presents the Kwento Thesis Chapter 2, Roots and Routes. New work by Ron Recaido, 1970s Filipino immigration to America via the U.S. Navy, bro.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, that's going to be here. It's going to be here.
Right here.
Saturday, June 28th from 12 to 4. You see the address. That's where we'll be at. Oh my gosh, bro.
Yeah.
Look at you.
So going back from the college story, so I finally graduated, right? And I was like, man, what am I gonna do? Like, I tried to get a job, but I didn't have the work ethic. I knew how to party, and I had the skills.
Takes ethic, a little work ethic to party.
Yeah, so I had all the
dedication.
skills, but I didn't have like the work ethic, which was just like, because I could have did this stuff with my eyes closed, but like work was a whole new muscle that I still needed to develop. You know what I'm saying? And so I ended up like going out in the world and still loved art, you know what I mean? But I was just like, man, I'm burnt out on school, having these people tell me assignments to do. And I was trying to find a voice because, you know, in school I learned about my history and all this stuff. And I was like, man, there's so much to say right now. But it was just like, I want to, you know, I could still doing graph, or I could come commercial as I was taught in school with all this like technical stuff that I learned. But I was just like, what's unique to who I am? Like, all right, Filipinos, like you would think to like all great civilizations, like say the Mexican community, you could go back and get inspiration from like so much stuff, like, you know, Aztec architecture. Boom, you could come up with the whole style. Just
Sacrificing virgins from pyramid.
there you go. Boom, you got something off the top.
I don't know why
board.
that came from.
That was your European.
That's my
side.
go-to, bro.
Yeah,
No,
like,
I was on the pyramid, sir.
or like, you know, say Chinese or Japanese art, you think like automatically in your head, you say, okay, there's like a certain look. I was like, well, what's Filipino? Like, I don't know, really, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave California. I was like at a crossroads, like, okay, I'm gonna bail out of California because like I'm all partied out. I got to go find something like new to do. But before I went, I ended up moving to Hawaii, right?
Okay.
But before I went to Hawaii, I made a trip out to the Philippines just to, you know, I don't know, like a sabbatical or whatever. You know, I wasn't there for that long. But
How long were you out there?
I was there for like 4 weeks or something. You know what I'm saying? Or 3 weeks. So I moved out of LA. Went to go visit the Philippines before I moved to Hawaii. And so while I was out there, while I was getting ready, I was like, you know what? When I'm in the Philippines, I'm gonna make it a pilgrimage, and I'm gonna find something. I'm gonna find like what the look is that I'm gonna be inspired by, and I'm gonna study it, incorporate it into my style. I'm gonna go out there and be inspired by something. I know it, right? And so, right, I was excited because I knew I was gonna find this look. And like right when I stepped off the airplane, grabbed my luggage, I was like, boom, there it is, right in front of my face. Because like they had these Jeeps from World War II left over, right? The Americans just left them there. And what the Filipinos did was that they repurposed them for public transit, right?
Okay.
And so World War II was in the 40s, 50s, right? And then through the 50s and 60s, like the Filipino jeepney drivers would take them and design them, right? To a fully like super ornate, it evolved into like a super ornate, like ridiculous amount of design, as much as you could cram on to this little Jeep. It was like their canvas, right? And I was like, by the time I got there, it was like the 2000s, it had evolved into its own little style, you know what I mean? And I was like, man, this is dope. Like, it's speaking to me because I went to school to study graphic design. I was all into typography and lettering. And not only that, but I was all reflecting, you know, being that I'm a deep thinker, right? I was just like, man, that's a trip, because this went through its whole like evolution of style through the 60s, 70s, 80s, right? And now here, 90s and 2000s, it's like come to its like a peak, right? And then I was like, man, I used like, of course, graffiti, you're always studying the graffiti as it evolved from the 70s and 80s and 90s. And I was like, that's a trip, because when you see what was going on in New York at the time, that this was simultaneously happening in the Philippines. So these two styles existed at the same time. And it was just like, depending on, you know, what you're paying attention to or whatever, it's like they kind of have some type of close ties being, you know.
Like a little parallel.
A little bit of a parallel. It was just like these people were trying to gain attention. Like the more flashier your bus, the more customers that you'll get. Like, oh, okay, I want to get
wanna
right
ride
on
in that.
Yeah, I want to get it right on this red one or this blue one or this super flat, whatever. And then out in New York, it was like, the bigger, the bolder, the more style that you have on your pieces that are on the trains, like the more props you get, you know what I mean? And I was just, running parallels, and I was like, I'm gonna study this style and soak it in, right? And so around that time, it had evolved from like hand painting, hand lettering to when I got there and witnessed it, it was like vinyl decals was the thing. So they would just take vinyl decals and then just cut like, they would cut like, now they got the cry cut machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that makes it easy. But like there was just dudes out there that are just hand cutting.
Labor intensive work, bro.
Intensive, like, and then the lettering style of like their brushwork is just, it's just dope. It just looks like, you go to Home Depot and the signs that they have, like it's just like effortless. But there was a certain style, a certain aesthetic, a certain like everybody kind of did the same, but you could tell like the hand of different people's work. It was just like, okay, they always write like in this brush script, but you could tell that this person writes different from that person. These two are different. These two people are different. This guy did these three. I was up in there like studying all this stuff, taking pictures so I could copy for later. You know what I'm saying? But
inspiration.
So I broke down this style. Like I tried to look for every single book about jeepney art. Because similar like in graffiti, like everybody started off looking at subway art and spray can art. I was like, man, there's got to be like a Bible of like jeepney art. And there really wasn't. There was one book in the 70s written about it. And then later, I think in the 2010s, some young cats, like upstart, like underground book company that came out with 2 books. So I've only seen in all the years of like, I've been looking at it, there's only 4 books out there. I got 3 of them. One's from the 70s, 2 is from like the 2010s. And then there's one out there that some Japanese folks created. And then when the Japanese get into something, they go crazy in depth. So it's like a big ass gigantic book, but it's only available in Japan. And if you try to buy it on eBay, it's just like $500.
Guess we're going to Japan, Chicle.
Yeah.
Guess we're going to Japan.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out there on a pilgrimage and buy that book one day.
Nice, man.
But so anyways, I was just like studying the style. I was like, okay, this is cool. I was getting it, like trying my hand at cutting some vinyls. Okay, I get it. I was like learning the technique. I would go out to where my parents live visiting.
Yes, sir.
And they would have them out there. And I was just like, oh man, this shit is dope. That shit is dope. I would just be sitting there like benching, like when you're benching for trains, I was benching these buses. And my cousins are like, you want to sit here all day and just look at these buses pass by? Because they're just looking at it like it's just a fucking bus.
It's transportation.
But I'm up
You're
in
like,
there.
It's more than that.
Yeah, I'm sitting. I was like, no,
really likes
man.
buses.
Like, I'm fucking here on vacation. Everybody fucking like, whatever I want to do is what we're doing. So
Where's Ron? On the bench watching buses go by, bro. This fool's been out there for 3 days straight.
But they'll fucking use that same style to do their tricycles, and that's another means of transportation. But anyways, inspiration was all over the place, and I was just soaking it all in.
That's a jam-packed 4-week sabbatical, a little pilgrimage,
I was
bro.
like, I was soaking it all in, and I was just like, people here in the Philippines, I don't know, like if they think that it's an art, it's more of just like a utilitarian type of thing or whatever, but they never really tripped off of it. But I was like, to me, that could be considered art because these dudes like are. So I went and found. I was like, man, I was asking my cousins because I was like there was like a couple of jeepneys that were dope, and I was like, man, no, I like this guy's style because I could tell that this guy's hand, I could see his hand was different, and he was like, oh man, that's like your 3rd cousin. So we went over to his house, yeah, and he was just like, yeah, well, fucking, can I help you? He was like, yeah, it's your cousin from the States, and fucking he wants to ask you. So I just asked him like, hey man, can you show me like how you do it, or give me an example like your lettering and why you do it. And so he was just like, I'll tell you what, man, come back fucking tomorrow and I'll fucking make a couple sheets. And I threw him like, it was like $80, and this motherfucker was like, "Oh yeah, hell yeah!" Because I was like,
he could stay with me, fool. It's no
yeah.
problem.
He was like, and what he gave me back in a couple days was just like, oh my god, like you finished this in like 2 days, and it's just like I showed these guys when they were over at the house,
That's awesome,
and it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Filipino
It's
family
crazy.
lineage is like Mexican lineage. We're all related, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right? It's like, it's tu prima, way. Just go get it. He'll hook you up.
Yep.
And so with this art show, so I took that style, had just put it in my pocket, just had it in a file. I was like, cool. But, went on exploring other drawings or styles or whatever. And then when I got with my lady, when we first got together, I had showed her all my different ideas. She was like, dude, how come you never share this? I was like, I don't know if people are gonna really feel it. She was like, this shit is fucking dope, right? She appreciates art. She's from LA. She knows what's up, right? And I was like, fuck it, all right, I'll show it. And then so I was like, you know what I've always really wanted to do was this one, because this one means a lot to me. It was like a fucking crossroads in my life, and this fucking style really spoke to me. And but how I wanted to use it was because it was a style that developed during the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was like, it would be like a perfect medium to tell the story of my parents who grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, immigrated out here, were young in America, left, nobody's out here, left fucking everything that they knew, came out here to try to make it. As a kid, I never really realized how big of a jump that is. But as an older parent, I was just like, man, these guys risked it all.
Yeah.
They risked it all. They sacrificed everything in hopes that they would have a better life for, the family, the whole story.
That's crazy, because now more than ever, I feel like that is in the crosshairs of it. Somebody in all of our families here, bro.
Yeah.
Put it all on the
Had to
line and
make
said,
that
hey,
leap.
let's roll.
Yeah,
We're going.
yeah. And then I think some of the things that they didn't anticipate were the racism, or the fact that there would be such a gap between generations between us, and you got your kids growing up in the United States, and this is these little ass kids don't know what the hell we had to do to get here, and we're out here spoiled, Nintendo, fucking hell, the GI Joes and
Hell yeah,
shit,
bro. The Bionic Commandos, Transformers. Stop it, Ron.
Man, and I'm just out here my dad would tell me yeah, I used to have to go to sleep fucking starving, hungry. I was like, I never knew what it was like to starve. Shit, I got some Twinkies in the fucking closet. I'm good and shit.
Yeah.
But now that I'm older,
In the closet, fool?
huh?
Who are you hiding them from?
No more. And I don't fuck with Twinkies no more. Yeah.
My
But-
wife told me once upon a time she would hide Oreos in her room. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? Why are we
way.
always hiding food, bro?
That's funny.
Just in case. Just in case.
You never know.
Yeah, but I've always wanted to do it. It never happened. A couple months ago, or maybe it's probably half a year ago, Chicle asked me and some of the homies if we wanted to do a group show. Everybody was busy, and I was like, I got a group show. I got something that I need to get off my chest, right? And so it was just and he was like, do a solo show? I was like, if it's cool, I got enough. I think I have enough content to do a solo show that might be worth putting out. And so I just started busting. I was like, damn, I had pieces, but I got to fill in the gaps. Still a lot of work. Still work to do. But basically, it's the style from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Very Filipino, this certain style, right? Straight from the Philippines, right? And it's from the era, talking about the era of my parents immigrating over here. And so I'm in the Navy, so I know Navy lingo, or what it's like to be fucking a sailor and all that shit. But so I'm able now, how they say a good artist has to experience life before they could have anything worth putting out. It was probably something that I couldn't do as well as I can now as a fucking older dude, because I didn't have the experience.
Life experience.
Life experience. So I got all the life experience, and everything came together. And the timing was good, so I was just knocking it all out, just exhausted, but just fueled by the inspiration of doing this and sharing the story. And it's a perfect outlet right here, because what you guys do, I fucking hella appreciate. Sorry for the cussing.
How dare you, sir? You
let
cuss
me
like
try
a
to-
really is a sailor.
Yeah,
You
let me
cuss
try to
like a
get myself
sailor,
together.
dog.
Keeping it real.
It's
This is a fucking family show, okay?
I like when Chicla's here, because if we say something funny, it takes him a second to process, and then a few seconds later, he's like,
Yeah. Call me the next day, hey, I finally get the joke. I finally get the joke that you told me yesterday.
Peachy Chicle.
And it's a trip because I've been out of I was out of San Diego for 20 years. I got orders back here. People asked me if I still do art, and I was like, yeah. And when I got back here, a couple years ago, I started doing art, and I met Chicle, and his family, and a whole bunch of artists. And I'd trip out because it was just back in the 90s, it was almost segregated where I would know 'em. I got homies who were Mexican that were into art, you know what I'm saying? But to have deep conversations, it would be okay, we got math class together and we're bullshit.
That was a weird time back then.
Yeah,
bro.
so it's just I know that's a cool ass cat, but I ain't gonna go fucking have.
He's Mexican.
I'm not gonna sit and have lunch with him
Yeah,
because it's
I
just
feel
like
you.
I got to stay over. It was like prison, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I got to stay over here, and they got to stay over there. And
There was
like,
always beefs going on in
Yeah, all
middle
the
school
time.
and in high school,
Yeah,
bro. And I
yeah.
just remember it all derived. It was funny because it all dealt with like music, culture, and just like this, that, and the other. And I just remember that era when I was growing up. It was everybody was rocking like Sesame Street clothing and had the big ass fucking chains
yeah.
with like the Elmos and almost like the
Yeah.
Legos or the building. It was like, what's going on?
Yeah,
And
going
people
to
just
a rave or some
yeah,
shit.
like ravers
Yeah.
and artists and this, and everybody's just always like culture beefing.
yeah.
Now you look back, it's like that's funny because all of us, we're all in the same group now, bro.
That's
We
what I'm
all in the
saying.
same melting pot
Yeah.
now. Back then, we're like, no, we're different because of this and because of that and that. But now it's like, shit, we were dumb.
Yeah.
Like, we
yeah.
all in this together now.
But when I met Chicle, like I grew up enough to where it was just like, I understand the Mexican culture or like, the Chicano culture, and I appreciate that shit. You know what I mean? Like that shit's fucking dope. Like everything, like the style, the fucking like what you guys stand for and all that. And I think we were having a conversation the other day where it was just like, I feel the same way as like, do I pronounce my name Ronald Recaido or do I pronounce my name fucking Ronaldo
Recaido.
You know what I mean?
Damn.
And then, when I'm here, like, are you American enough?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
You're
know
like
what I'm
Selena,
saying?
bro.
Like,
You're like freaking
I'm dark. You know what I'm saying?
we're too Mexican for the whites and we're too whites for the Mexicans,
Yeah,
bro. And
same thing
it's-
with the Filipinos.
Yeah, I
It's
feel
just
you.
like, and I'll go to the Philippines or even in the Navy, like some cats that grew up and lived in the Philippines, they're like, oh, man, you're not Filipino. You're a coconut or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, motherfucker, like,
Damn, just like us, bro.
yeah.
Just like
Exactly.
Like,
Damn, you want to know how not Mexican you are, bro? Go visit
Yeah.
family down south. They'd be like, "Yes, the pinche gringo que?" We're like,
Right.
"What,
Yeah.
dog? Like,
I
what?
was
I
like,
speak
same,
Spanish and
same,
English." She's
same.
like, nah. Then you bring a Mexican up here, like one of ours, like, "Damn fool."
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's just like there's a lot of parallels, and it's
Yeah.
just like one thing that I appreciate from the Chicano culture is like, okay, you guys don't consider us this, or you guys don't consider us that. Well, we're gonna be uniquely ourselves, and you guys, or the Chicanos came up with a fucking style that like now everybody wants to fucking emulate that shit. It's like, man, you motherfucker, it's like you gotta earn that shit. Like you don't just fucking
Yeah, Gwen Stefani.
Mhm.
Yeah, for no reason,
Damn.
dog.
20 years
For
later.
no
You know what I'm
reason.
saying?
Pinche just a girl.
yeah.
She moved on. I think she's like doing another culture now.
Did you tell a MAGA,
Country
bro?
now, no?
She's a MAGA star now, bro. That's
Yeah.
right. Your favorite artist, Chicle.
Which one?
No doubt, perro.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Without
yeah,
a doubt.
I keep forgetting. I'm excited, man. I'm
Yeah.
I'm all in for Saturday.
No,
I'm
it's
coming
sick.
through,
It's
bro.
so
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. I mean, I think one thing that like me and Chicle were talking about as well. We talked about a lot, but I think when I shared one of the pieces during the group art shows was that people were like, "Oh, that's dope! Like that's a pretty cool picture." But I think what people don't understand was that all these little super small details were fucking hand cut. So I want to put out there that fucking I spent a lot of hours hand cutting these things. So nothing's like a print. It's
Yeah.
not like I didn't AI it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't printed out.
Shots fired.
Like,
Why you keep
compa.
looking at me when you say that, though?
I think we all know why, Chicle.
no.
I don't know why. Why
The
does
flyer, the flyer I prompted, how would Chicle design a flyer if he was
Yeah.
Filipino?
Yeah.
And then bam.
And then,
hell yeah.
And there's a
Yeah,
point.
there it is.
Wham, bam.
Damn.
The Emo Brown Art Department presents the Kwento Thesis, Chapter 2, Roots and Routes, this Saturday,
Yeah.
June 28th, 12 to
Roots
4.
and routes.
What's
You gotta
going
roll
on,
the
bro?
R.
We got to roll them, bro. What's going on in the bottom? Whose glass is going to be here? It's going to be may or may not. What
Yeah,
are-
yup. So I was figuring like, gotta have a DJ. I know homie's younger sister who DJs and like she has a good sound, so brought her out. Bobo's is like my brother's older homie who was opening a food truck. So
Heck yeah.
it's like, hey man, it'd be a good opportunity to share the food, and then the other homies are artists as well. And then my other homie, yeah, you'll see.
We
You'll see.
are
It's
all
gonna be-
Mexicans,
hey,
bro.
brother.
We're the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like, ¿sabes que yo tengo un primo que tiene un pinche food truck? Bring that fool in.
Exactly.
Hey,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
fucking cousin, he does cumbia DJ. Bring that guy in.
So going back to some Navy history was that when they let the Filipinos into the Navy, they said, you could only really be one job, and that was a steward. So basically you were picking up after people, folding their clothes, doing their laundry, and cooking the food. And then cleaning the kitchen, that was the only job that you could have. Either that or you worked in the boiler room where you went down in a hot ass space to get temperature readings. So those are like the only two jobs that you could have in the Navy and shit. So it's just like a whole bunch of Filipinos cooks, and they're just like, fuck it, that's the only job that they gave us, but we're making way more than we were back then. And what I think the U.S. Navy didn't anticipate was like, well, as these people moved up in rank, then what happens? Now you have all these like higher ranking people all like up in supply. And it's just like they started just like
running the show.
They started running the show because you can't not like, oh, you want your laundry done? Oh, well, I know you're talking shit about the homie, so fucking, we'll see if we could get your laundry done.
We're gonna get around to it when we get around to it.
Yeah, or like, oh, I heard you clowning and fucking the homie for the way he talks, and oh, now you're coming around.
I like how you're looking at BJ when you're saying that, bro. Hell yeah, tap into that. Tap into that.
It was
I
like
think he reminds him of someone.
That's your muse right there.
Yeah. It was like, okay, but guess what? I'm serving the food. Here goes your portion. A little, conservative portion. But then when the homies come through, it's like, hey, we got some extra ribs in the back. Like, secret menu, hidden menu.
Conservative portion, give him right wing food, bro. It's like, hey,
you get the right wing.
Dude, that's it, bro.
That's the right wing. The right wing. Yeah, so that's another whole story. That's another whole story.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring him in again, bro.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to sit down and legit have some drinks, do it proper.
On Saturday, we need Ron to talk about the pieces, because I think that's what resonated with me the most is that even though he's telling the story of a Filipino family, it is a lot like what our parents went through or our grandparents, even though they just crossed the border on land. And I think that's a piece that, again, like not until we were adults did I fully understand Filipino people, To me, it was just people we grew up with, but I didn't know their story. I didn't know.
Yeah, because
like how similar we are.
Hey, just be quiet, lay low. Don't fucking make any noise.
Don't
just
cause
fucking,
a wave.
Yeah, just fucking go to school, get good grades, graduate, go get a good job, and don't go out here making trouble. Or they're always just like, no, just like.
All my neighbors were Filipinos, bro.
Trying to stay out, yeah,
and I didn't know the second layer of what it was.
Right,
I just knew like, I played with the Trinidadads. We all hung out and we all played in the yards or outside. And then as you get older, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You were in the Navy, sir. Oh,
yeah.
So was your wife.
Yeah,
oh, shit. I was like, now you're a nurse and you're a postman.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of all like, I was like, oh, shit, you know?
So it's like, the show is done in a visual language, but it also speaks to it just tells the story of what it was like to be a Filipino. So maybe somebody as myself would come up here and automatically get the little references, but to maybe somebody who's not familiar with it, it'll be like a different language. Like, I don't understand. Like, it looks cool. It looks nice, but like, if you understand the meaning behind it, then it's like, oh, okay, I know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? It's like when two people are talking shit in a language you don't understand, and then like they're fucking low-key talking shit about you, and it's just like, oh,
Google Translator, homie.
But anyway,
I take that shit everywhere.
Yeah, just hold the microphone up.
I'm just like,
AirPods translate in real time.
Real time. We were at a nail salon getting our fucking pedicures a long time ago when my wifey first started getting me pedicures. I just pulled that motherfucker out and it's like, because every time I go,
the Vietnamese ladies talking shit.
They're laughing at my feet. I was like, so I brought the Google Translator out. Like, oh no, they're just busting each other. They're not really talking. It's like, all right, put this away. I'm in a safe space.
He has
That's on the phone. Then you just switch over.
I'm in a safe space. I'm gonna put this shit away.
Yeah.
After a while, I'm like laughing with them. Like, I got you, girl. You got her.
Come back next time. You got to come back and speak Vietnamese.
Imagine,
to them.
dude.
Like, hey, fucking do it.
I'd blow their mind, dude. I'd flip the. All right, I'm in, bro. Saturday, guys.
Saturday.
Bring it up
12 to
one more
4.
time, Barry. Just Barry the third.
Yep.
The Kwento Thesis, Chapter 2. Roots and Routes, bro. New work by Mr. Ron Recaido. 1970s Filipino immigration to America via the U.S. Navy. Dude, I'm stoked on this now, dog. I'm excited to see.
You're in on the inside joke
I'm
now. So you guys will all be laughing like, we get it. And everybody else
on
will be.
this.
Yeah.
Pleasure for you to come and make
Thank
time
you.
for us today, bro.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate sitting down with you. This was awesome. And I'm serious. We're going to have to run this thing back after the show when we got a little bit more time. Sit down and dig deeper, bro. Dig a little bit deeper on all the things. Chica, you can come if you want, whatever, dog.
I'll come
if
and
not, we
listen
got a
again.
delayed button for laughs, you know?
I'll come and listen again.
Hey, some of these fools be saying, hey, your name shouldn't be Kwento, it should be dissertation. Because
Oh, damn.
you know what I'm saying? It should be
Okay.
dissertation. Lecture.
What do you got to tell us about
Lecturer.
Saturday, Chicle? What else could we expect, sir? As the curator of these events on
Yeah, well,
Saturday.
the food, music, there'll be some vendors, and more than anything, the show. So come out, find Ron, ask him questions. Let's get him on the mic and have him share the story. And hopefully, the show starts here and can go to other spaces.
That would be sick.
Because I think this is one of those that, like, the story needs to be shared. So I don't know. Y'all got to experience it. So come Saturday, 12 to 4. It's going to be great.
I got to plug Brisk's show. There's a follow-up.
Oh, yeah. July 5th in Balboa Park. The Overthinkers show is, I don't know how many, but a lot of local artists, some legends, and even I snuck in there. Ron will be there as well. Dala is going to be there selling some things. So that'll be excited. Overthinkers, July 5th, Balboa Park.
It's going to be a busy weekend, man. Couple weeks
Yeah.
coming up then. It's going
Yeah.
to be a couple of weeks that we're just going to have events to roll out to.
That's right.
Can't wait. BJ, show it one more time. Leave it up on there and let's get out of here. Look at there. It is,
Roots and
bro.
routes.
Let's
Get
do
in,
it.
get out. Let's do a thing. See you guys on Saturday.
Bye.